Mike Luke. All right, we're going to be talking a lot of Jed Fish today, as there's going to be a signing day press conference, and we're going to be talking some Arizona basketball, what you need to know for the Oregon schools. But let's get started here on Locked On Wildcats.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats, and a happy Wednesday. I am your host, Mike Luke. Show is brought to you by FanDuel, as you know. Okay, now, Arizona football signing day press conference is here, and we're going to be hearing from Jed Fish later today, but figured needed to give you a little bit of a rundown on the class, give you a primer on who you should know, what positions they're at, all of that good stuff right there. So the first thing, let's just start at the quarterback position. First thing you need to know is that Braden Dorman is really, really good. I'm not really breaking any news right there, but Braden Dorman is very good. Now, again, four-star quarterback out of Colorado, big-time arm, can sling the ball pretty much all over the place, can do a lot of different stuff out there. And, you know, he fits right in with what Jed Fish has been talking about from day one, about how he wants guys that are able to, he wants guys that are smart, guys that are able to do a lot of different things out there. And he, so far he's been that guy. Right now, I think that, he and Noah Fafita in a year is going to be a very, very interesting competition right there, because both of them are obviously very good, and at the same time, they're drastically different guys. Braden Dorman's 6'5", typical prototype drop back passer. Then you got Noah Fafita, who's about 5'8", but has a rocket arm, can move around, can do all that stuff that you really need him to be able to do. They're both big time, but the quarterback position, I think right now is set, and it's very, very good. I'm curious to see exactly, how this plays out going forward. But right now, I think that it's fair to say that Arizona is in a very good spot at the quarterback position. Now, some of the other stuff that I thought was fascinating at the running back spot, you got Brandon Johnson. Arizona is obviously loaded at the running back room. We already know that. Everybody knows that. But Brandon Johnson is another guy that you put in there. He's fast. He's speedy. He can move around. He can do a lot of different things. He fits right in with what we've been talking about from Jed Fish, about how he wants to have that culture of having guys in there who are fast, guys who are able to, really make plays, being able to make plays and, do it the right way, I guess I'll put it to you like that. All right. Now, at the wide receiver position then, you've obviously got an absolutely loaded wide receiver unit already. So, again, not really breaking any news right there. But a couple of the other things that I think people need to keep an eye on, though, are, first and foremost, you've got Mario Wilson coming in, ex-Utah commit. Depending on which service you look at, could be a 4-star kid, could be a high 3-star kid. Either way, though, if he's good enough for Utah, he's good enough for me. That's where I'm leaving it right there. Big time. I think he's got some big time potential to him. And again, I think the best is yet to come for him, as the cliche goes. Now, some of the other thing, but Mario Wilson, big one right there. Jackson Holman as well. You got a bunch of different guys. So we'll find out exactly where that stands. But right now, I would say never worry about the wide receiver position, because the wide receiver position, I think, is one position under Jed Fish that Arizona should always be set at. Now, some of the other things that I think people need to look at then, offensive line. Now, again, Arizona hit the ball out of the park last year with the offensive line. From Big Jonas Savanea to Wendell Moe to guys like that. They were able to get guys in that were able to contribute and contribute immediately. Now, some of the other players or people that I think you need to also keep an eye on are, and you might say to yourself, Robert Polito. That's a guy that, the offensive tackle position right now is definitely open. And I think when it's definitely, and not only is it definitely open, I think that there's some potential right there for a freshman to possibly come in. Now, I think the thing that does, I think, bring you back a little bit is that, Raymond Polito's not going to be on campus early. So that's something that I think, obviously is less than ideal. But at the same stage, though, this is a kid that was committed to Alabama. And the fact that he was committed to Alabama tells you something. And it wasn't that Alabama dropped him either. So again, he's got, there's some real potential right there. Now, what I do look at, though, and I think that you look at is the interior line is pretty much set. Big Jordan Morgan is good, should be good to go. And then at the other tackle spot, it's going to be interesting. You got Sam Lange, you got Joe Bourgeon, you've got all kinds of different dudes right there that can possibly step in. And Raymond Polito is right there in that group as well. So again, lots of different stuff that you can look at and point to a positive direction for Arizona athletics, to put it mildly. Now, some of the other things that I think we need to keep an eye on are the defensive side of the ball right now, because again, Arizona's defense started picking up towards the end of the season last year, and that you were forcing turnovers. You were making some plays happen that hadn't happened in the past. And I think that that's something, obviously, that you should be very impressed by. Now, got to get better players, obviously, and they continue to get better players. Last year, you got guys like a Jacob Manu, an Ephesians Prysock, a Takario Davis, all players that were able to make very quick impacts. Now, you might be saying to yourself, who could be those guys this year? First of all, we got to talk about the elephant in the room. That's Justin Flo. As Greg Biggins has said, this is one of the best. This is one of the best high school linebackers out west in the last 10, 15 years. He's that good. I mean, he's got a big time presence about him. He's got that type of ability to him. But a couple things that I think you also need to know, though, is that he was a little bit injury prone. He's in here, fresh start. I think that he's going to have a fantastic career here at the U of A. And then the guy right next to him, you've got Leviticus Sua. Along with Jacob Manu and Justin Flo, you've revamped your entire linebacking core, which is something that I think you need to look at, and you can't just take lightly. Because, again, you got to be able to get the right players in there. And so far, Arizona has been able to do that. And I think that's obviously a very good thing. Now, at the defensive line position, last year you got guys like Jacob Kangaika, Tai Uiagalelei, Deuce Davis, Deuce Lane. So now you bring in some guys, some through the transfer portal, like Big Bill Norton. First of all, great name. And I don't care if he didn't play much at Georgia. That means next to nothing to me, literally next to nothing. He is he's a player that is, he's big. He can move around a little bit. You put him in there, another kind of space eater, for lack of a better term. And I think you got something that you can really work with right there. Now, but a lot of the D line, I think, is going to be through interior improvement. And that's where I think that's where Arizona steps in here, because if you can get guys that can improve you on the interior side of the defense, or on the interior or internal improvement, if you can get guys that can improve you on the internal side, then you're really working with something right there. And Arizona's got that. Now, at the defensive back position here, it's also fascinating because, again, it's much the same as the defensive line in that you've already got You've already got a guy in you've already got a guy in Ephesians Prysock who's probably going to start. Then you've got a Takario Davis. You've got a Traden Stukes. You've got players of that ilk that are ready to essentially step in and contribute immediately. Now, I think the one thing that people do need to look at is to themselves. You need to say that, all right, who could be those next guys right there? Isaiah Taylor at that safety spot is going to get a ton of run, and not only is he going to get a ton of run, he's a player that is you could maybe even say that some guys were told that they wouldn't have a starting position locked up because of him. That's what he's got going for him right there. Now, at the other spot, then I think you could see a guy like a Genesis Smith, safety out of Chandler. Really like him, big kid. I think he's fairly underrated, to be honest with you. As a matter of fact, I know he's underrated. It would not surprise me at all if he was able to come in and Arizona was able to get him in a starting position, pretty quickly, because again, that's the kind of talent that he has. Now, that's kind of where we're at right now. And at the kick returner positions, I'd love to see Speedy Luke. I'd love to see somebody like that really kind of take claim to that kick returner spot. But overall, Arizona did what it needed to do this offseason to continue to improve. And the thing that I think everyone else also needs to remember is that this isn't done. With the way the transfer portal is, you'll have kids that are coming open in the spring as well. And that's where obviously people need to keep an eye on. Now, let's talk about FanDuel. Here's the deal. FanDuel is where it's at. Everybody's heard of FanDuel, and you heard of FanDuel for a reason, because it's awesome. FanDuel.com/lockedon is, you can go on there, you can get all the latest deals, all kinds of good stuff. And again, check it out. FanDuel.com locked on. Put down $5. You can get up to, I kid you not, you can get up to $150 in free plays. New customers, check it out. Again, FanDuel, great stuff. And you know what? Honestly, this is, when you've got something like FanDuel, the reason that it's around is because it works. People like it. It works. So you know what? If it's good enough, it's good enough for everybody else out there. Check it out, FanDuel. All right. We'll be right back with you. We're going to get you ready for this Arizona-Oregon homestand. Thanks for keeping it locked on, Wildcats. I'm your host, Mike Luke. All right, we got even more to get to now. All right, now the first thing that we need to talk about is Arizona basketball. So again, everybody knows that Arizona really didn't play well, to put it mildly, against the University of Oregon up in Eugene. Now, nobody really knows exactly what the status of N'Faly Dante is, and that's certainly something that need to keep an eye on for sure, because he's very, very good. But the one thing that I think a lot of people do know, though, is that Dana Altman seemingly has had Arizona's number, and that's something that I think Arizona needs to try to. How do I put this? It's something that I think Arizona needs to try to eradicate. Lack of a better term. Don't have a better term, but lack of a better term. And I think with Arizona, it all starts with you got to be able to guard, because against Oregon they just didn't guard, and I think that's what surprised a lot of people. I think a lot of people thought that Arizona would guard, but that just didn't happen against Oregon. Now you're going to be at home, and you've rebounded very nicely. You beat the LA schools, take care of the Washington schools, but you got to be able to hold court, pardon the pun, against Oregon, because if you don't, then a lot of this stuff essentially is for naught. And I think that's where we need to remember that, right now Arizona is in that group of about 8 people or 8 teams that can really make a difference right there. We'll find out though, because again, Arizona should blast Oregon State, but Oregon is the one that you always want to keep an eye on because again, they can be pesky. The Oregon Ducks, and they're pretty talented. It's actually kind of baffling that they've struggled the way they have because you've already got guys like I said, like N'Faly Dante, like um, Will Richardson. Jermaine Couisnard has come in and he's been good. Nate Biddle as well has been very, very good. You've had a lot of different players that have come in and have been very, are pretty talented, but for whatever reason, it hasn't really worked for them. Now, in this game, there's going to be certain players that if you're Arizona, you need to have be, for lack of a better term, you need to have them be good. And Umar Ballo has struggled this year, has struggled in his career generally against length. And I don't know that that's going to be something that is going to change. And I don't know that it's going to change in this game. But when he does go against those type of teams, you got to be able to find somebody, though, or you got to be able to find some way to be able to score. Again, it's not easy. Not saying that it is. It's not easy, but you got to be able to find somebody, some way to be able to power baskets in, or whatever the case may be. You got to check it, or you got to be able to make it work. Azuolas Tubelis, just keep doing what you're doing, Azuolas. Azuolas Tubelis has been one of the handful of best players in the country, and again, if he's not a let's just be honest here. If he's not a first-team All-American, that just goes to show you that there's more national media home cooking, for lack of a better term, in there because they should be. Arizona should be, or Azuolas Tubelis should be a first-team All-American. You can watch it for 5 seconds and you can come away saying, yeah, that's the way that it should be. So again, Azuolas Tubelis, got to be able to continue to ball and dominate there because again, that's what he's been able to do, and it's been very, very impressive. Now, let's take a quick break. Let's talk about what a win would mean for the University of Arizona. Thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats. I'm your host, Mike Luke. All right, now let's talk about what a win would mean for the University of Arizona. And if Arizona was able to beat the Oregon schools, I think you're squarely in the top 5 at that point. And not only are you squarely in the top 5, you're also able to look around and say, man, if we take care of business, we're essentially going to be able to, be a number 1 seed. And that's all you want if you're Arizona. Right now, you just want to be in the position where, okay, we're for a number 1 seed, or if we win out or we have a little bit of margin for error, we can be that number 1. We can be a number 1 seed. And they're at that point right now. You just got to be able to continue to do it. Because teams are going to keep dropping games. So we've talked about this a billion different times, but you just got to be able to, if you keep winning games, you're going to be able to do what you need to be able to do right there. Now, because other teams are going to lose. Meanwhile, Arizona also has a pretty nice little resume right now. But the only thing that's kind of the wart in the resume is that you do have some tough losses. You got to eliminate the tough losses. If you eliminate the tough losses, then going forward, then I think you're pretty much a lock for a 1 seed, especially with the way that everybody's losing. UCLA, Kansas, you name it, they've all had recent losing streaks. Arizona isn't immune to that, as we all know. Okay. Jed Fish is going to be speaking later today. Tomorrow, we're going to talk more about what Coach Fish had to say and all of that good stuff. But as always, have a great Wednesday. Have a great rest of your. We're going to be with you day in and day out. You know the grind. You know how it goes around here. So again, have a great day. And as always, thanks for keeping it locked on Wildcats. And we will talk with you tomorrow.